Welcome to Minds on a Mission, the podcast where we explore the journeys that challenge us, change us, and chart the best course for our best selves. I'm your host, Samantha Bailey, an entrepreneur and content creator. And if you hadn't noticed, I had done something where my intro is not playing, so I do apologize about that. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day today, and let's introduce Denielle Rigoglioso. Woo!
Hi.
Not a great start. I was like, oh my gosh, what happened to my intro? It's a thing. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I just remembered I did like a thing me and my friend were doing. We were recording something on here and I had taken the intro off so that it didn't mess with it. And I'm like, just
Uh,
remember that, but we keep on trekking.
that's that's right. That's the tech world for you. Like sometimes things work and sometimes they just don't.
Yes, very true. So, my favorite thing to do when we get on is having you introduce yourself, just for anyone who may not know you. If you could just know a little bit about you.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I'm Denielle Rigoglioso. I'm a licensed therapist, and I am a private practice business coach for therapists. I own my own private practice. It's a group private practice, and I also have a very robust coaching program for clinicians who want to build, who want to, well, start, build, scale, optimize, grow, all of the things.
It's awesome.
Mhm.
Um, Can you tell us a little bit about like the beginning of your journey, kind of where you came from? And you could share like whatever details or not if you don't want to
Yeah,
talk about
sure.
childhood or anything.
Oh, no, it's fine. So I this journey has been quite long. And I actually just had somebody ask me this today, just sort of how did you get into coaching and how did you get into therapy? And so I sort of knew that therapy was what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people. And so of course I got my bachelor's. And then a very long time after that, I got my master's. I had a baby in between there. So lots of juggling, working full time in community mental health. And as I grew into my profession and as I started my master's program, I had opportunity after opportunity to move into leadership positions that really aligned with where I'm at today, which is so wild. And I was able to, both of my parents are entrepreneurs. They both own their own business. Uh, I was offered the opportunity to learn how to manage a business and manage numbers and data and things to get referrals and marketing and generating like a network, right, of individuals who want to refer to your practice. And so that was very early on in my career. And then fast forward a few years, I was approached to start and build a practice for another agency here in my state. And so I was like, yes, of course. So I started that business from the ground up here locally, ended up expanding that into a second site. And I also, it ended up being a practice that generated 5 million, which is huge. And I had 150 staff across both sites and a variety of programs: outpatient, crisis, um, uh, community, like community mental health, intensive and home mental health skill building, and then also ABA and med management psychiatry at one point. And so I I learned a lot during that time to grow and scale that practice and to build it from the ground up. That then that knowledge in turn helped me start my own practice. And so eventually I broke away from that. Unfortunately, that road led to burnout, as it often does. And so I started my own practice, grew and scaled that, and grew and scaled that into a group practice, and also at the same time started coaching other therapists to do the same. And you know ideally what I want for therapists is to get out of that space where burnout is so prevalent, and into a space where they have more control, more flexibility, more income. So that is how I got here.
That's quite a journey. Were your
Yes.
parents entrepreneurs when you were younger, or was this like
Yep. They are. They were when I was younger. They've always been, and they still are. So
It's awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Do you feel like either that was like encouraging, or I know some people like maybe it, you know, kind of added a pressure. What do you feel like it?
Yeah, no, I think because both of my parents own their own business, I think I was a little bit more apt to go out on my own and have that kind of drive. And I think all those opportunities along the way in those leadership positions and those opportunities to like grow other practices really helped me move in that direction and know what to do. And I just knew that like to be a to own my own private practice was always the goal. Always, always, always the goal. There's never any pressure. I just knew that there was an opportunity out there and that I was perfectly capable. As I watched my parents do, my mom had a variety of different businesses that she had as I was growing up. And so I watched her flex and pivot and navigate all of these different things to support her family, and that was truly inspiring. And so it's just taught me that you got to keep going, keep doing, keep going, keep trying. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but
No, that was a good answer.
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Like, my mom's an entrepreneur, but my dad's not, and
Hmm.
like, I mean, I kind of grew up on it, but also like at that time, my mom was a single parent, like working multiple
Hmm.
jobs. So I kind of just was curious, like what it would be like to have both parents being an entrepreneur and like kind
Yeah.
of where that lied. But that's awesome that you're able to kind of see. Like, I feel like I'm similar in a way of like kind of analyzing people and being like, okay, this is kind of what they're doing. Like, what do I want to do? Like, especially with like family and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
um. So for anyone who like may be interested in becoming a business coach or a therapist, or do you have like any specific advice on like how people could start?
Yeah, absolutely. So certainly, if you're interested in, that becoming a therapist is a whole process. It's a, grad program or your undergrad and then your master's program, and then licensure supervision. So there's a very dedicated path to that. But what I tell everybody is when they get to that spot where they're done with their master's program and they're moving into what we call like an associate or a resident, or a pre-licensed therapist, that if your state allows it, go ahead and start your private practice then, because I never want you to be limited, and I never want people to. The narrative that we are taught as therapists is that we sacrifice our finances for our passion. And I remember one of my coaching clients on a call said I did not take an oath to poverty when I decided to become a clinician. And it's true. You're allowed to have your passion as a therapist and you're allowed to make money at the same time. And so that is the message that I am constantly sending to therapists is like, it's okay. There's no shame. You are allowed to make money. You're allowed to make six figures plus. And it doesn't take away from the passion and why you got into this. And in fact, what it does is it opens us up to be able to actually help more people, which is really beautiful. Um,
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah.
I feel like it's easy to kind of, especially like, I don't know, like I kind of grew up in poverty and like had not a great money mindset. So I feel like it's
Hmm.
easy to kind of think like, oh, is it bad to want this much
Hmm.
money? Like, do I deserve it? Things like that. But it's really
Sure.
nice, for you to share that, like ensuring people like it's okay, you don't have to be ashamed to want to have more and, still be able to teach people and be passionate about it. So that's
Absolutely. Money mindset's huge, Samantha. Like it is. We have to wrap our brains around that. And I was just telling somebody today, they're like, well, what's the cost of coaching? And I was like, well, wait a minute. Actually, it's not a cost. And this is where money mindset comes in. Even for myself, I invest in coaching. I invest in things that grow me and help my business and help me scale. And so it's not a cost. So it's not something I'm just like telling, people who want to come into my program. I operate with this mindset too, is that it's an investment. What am I going to get out of it? what's the return? How does it come back to me? And so, if it takes me a month to build, whatever it is that I'm building that I'm going to launch, if I can hire somebody and pay them, let's just say $500, for example, and they can get it done in like 5 days, and that means that I can start profiting off of whatever it was that I was trying to, sell or do, then it was worth the investment to do that, rather me, spending, stressing, spending way too much time, trying to get it done. So money mindset is crucial, and it's not something that's taught. It's just not. It's not taught. I mean, I don't know. Money mindset's taught in any program, as far as like college courses or master's programs or things of that nature. And it is something that you really have to grasp onto and understand that when you invest in yourself and you invest in your business, there is a return there. And that is how you have to think about those things. So I've invested a lot in myself and in my businesses to grow and scale, with the idea that if I do that, then there's a return on that investment.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
I was like listening to it was called like a 30-day millionaire mindset.
Mhm.
It's like on Spotify. And uh yeah, that's like one of the things that the coach was talking about. She was saying that um like when she first started, she invested like, I can't remember, it was either like 20 or like $50,000 into a coach, and she was like kept thinking like, wow, I don't know how I'm gonna pay this. Like and a
Right.
lot of times like that's like definitely something I recognize in myself for, is like thinking that like, you know, it's so easy to think about the costs, like the actual, money, but not what you will get in return for it. It's so easy to
Mhm.
be like making that a determining factor. But like I've been personally working on that, trying not to, and like I'm kind of like in a middle space where like I'm spending the money, but I know like if it was over a certain amount, I'd still kind of have that like, oh, that sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah, feels like a lot, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That you always have to think about what is the return, right? Am I investing in me, and am I investing in my business, and am I going to get this back? And how long is it going to take me to get this back? And so with my coaching clients, I ask them like, okay, if you spend X amount of dollars investing in your business, how many sessions do you have to earn it back? And when we do the math that way, it's like, oh my gosh, well, that's a no brainer. I get to where I need to go to faster because I have help, and I'm going to make that money back very quickly.
Right. Do you um do you feel like that's something like you've more recently, well, maybe not recently, but like, sorry, trying to think of the way to word it. But
It's okay.
do you feel like it's taken you a while to get to that point of understanding? Because you were saying like they don't really teach that in college or anything, or do you feel like kind of having your parents being entrepreneurs, you kind of learned that younger?
No, it's something that I learned, on my own, and that I had to wrap my own brain around. And being in community mental health prior to that, prior to my own private practice, I was capped, there was a ceiling. And so I wasn't going to get past that unless I took a second job, which I did. I worked my private practice in the afternoons. And so, there's no reason for us as therapists to be working multiple jobs in that capacity. And so um, I think as long as you really dial in to money mindset, again, it's something that I had to essentially teach myself. And now I teach others because I've learned, right, about what is the investment in, and how long is it going to take me to earn that money back, and how quickly does it help me get there.
Right. What would you say has been, I forget the wording. I had someone on, they used a different word and I wish I could remember, it's been so long. But I guess would be like the biggest hurdle that you've overcome?
Ooh, good question. I mean, there's been lots of hurdles. So,
Right.
the first hurdle that I had to overcome is that, while I was working, I went through a very, what's a good word? Rough divorce. And I was a single parent, 100% a single parent. And so I had to work and I had to go to grad school. And I had to do all these things. And thankfully, I have like a wonderful support system, and village. But it was hard. It was really, really hard. And so, none of where I've come to has come easy. It's been a journey. And even just becoming licensed was a huge journey, to be juggling being a single parent, to working multiple jobs, to be able to do that, to be in grad school with a young child. Like, it was tough. I stayed up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning during doing homework, and I get up in the morning with my daughter and then go to work for the whole day and then repeat, rinse and repeat. And then also too, the licensure process of gaining hours, right, and working in the community and juggling that alongside of being a parent, was tough. And so, you know working my way up in each of the positions and really working very hard to learn and to grow. And so that's another thing, is always have like an open mindset, always be willing to get feedback, willing to learn. So I was always looking for more things that I could grab and take over and do. And could I run this report? Can I do this management report? Can I, manage all the intakes and the referrals and the networking? I was constantly mastering and then asking for more, mastering and asking for more, because I was hungry for that knowledge. I wanted it so bad. I just wanted to be what I considered at that point successful, right? And so all of that has obviously, led to where I'm at now, which is wonderful. And I'm grateful for all of those opportunities. I would say another really tough spot was leaving that practice that I had built and all of my staff. And I was very tied to that. Even though it wasn't mine, it certainly felt like mine. Um, and so that was really tough to separate. And, you know, I got to a point where my body couldn't take anymore. Actually, like, I was clenching my teeth during the day. I was so stressed and strained that I cracked a tooth. And that was kind of like my first like wake up call of like, okay, how much longer can you do this? How much longer can you handle this? And when it started to impact my family and my family time and my functioning, right, is when I had to make the leap. And at that point, I was seeing clients in my private practice, but I just hadn't gone full time. And so I get it. Like, I get it. You don't have to be burnout and you don't have to like be miserable in your job to leap in private practice, that you can actually be happy with where you're at, but want more for yourself. So that's an option too. But that was hard. That was really hard. I pushed out and I pushed out and I pushed out. And then finally I got to a point where I was like, I have to put in my resignation. I can't go another day like this. So lots of struggles along the way for sure. So, but I think those make you stronger, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is very true. That sounds, yeah, it sounds like I'm only 21, so I haven't even gotten to even one fraction of any of that.
Yeah.
Um, I would still say I've overcome a lot, but I'm like, I already feel like I've lived 7 lives at this point, which is crazy. But yeah, that's a lot to go through.
Mhm.
I had sorry.
It's okay.
So I had a thought, but I was like trying to think of how I was gonna word it. That's me. But if you could, I just was thinking this, like, and anytime like, I like to watch podcasts, so anytime I've heard this
Mhm.
question, like, it always intrigues me. So, if you could give your younger self one major piece of advice, what would it be?
Ooh, one, just one?
I mean, you could give multiple, but
You know, I think that's a really great question because there's so much to unpack there. So, as a therapist, the advice I would have given myself would have been to start my private practice a long time ago. However, you know, a lot of my knowledge and experience you know, that what built my program now comes from my experience. So, but maybe I could have left a little bit sooner before I was physically falling apart and I cracked a tooth. Like that probably would have been good advice.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, for all clinicians, myself included, you know, it would be to go ahead and start the process of building your business. Start it as soon as you can. Um, that makes sense that you can like actually start seeing clients. So for clinicians, that is actually like postmasters. And that is state and license specific. But actually, you know what? Here, let me. This is it. You're gonna do it scared. So lean in. It's waiting is never, it's never going to go away. You're always going to be afraid to take that next step, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a therapist building your private practice, it doesn't matter. You're always going to be scared. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Those are, I think if there's any like big takeaways or advice, it's those two. Do it scared, ask for help.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. um, yeah, I don't know what mine would be, and it's yeah. Well, part of me wants to say, you know, don't be afraid, but then I'm also like, I feel like kind of what you're saying, like being
But you
scared of
can't say that.
it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
because
can't say
it's
that.
a
You're
motivator. So
Well, you don't want fear and anxiety to be the motivator. You just know
right,
that it comes along for the ride. So
yeah,
imposter syndrome is always going to show up in some form or fashion at multiple points in your career. It's just going to show up and you just have to embrace it. It means that you're doing something big. It feels a little bit uncomfortable, right? But lean into it. What is it that's, you know, what is it saying? Is it saying that you're like taking a risk? Sure, you might be. And that's okay. What I also say is that there's a risk staying where you're at. Okay. But there's also a risk in moving outside of that. And so, which one leads to like a better, healthier path for you or
right.
profitable path for you? Right.
I'm a little crazy. That's why I said it's a good motivator for me because, like, I don't know, like I'm the kind of I've gone to the point where I'm like I will push myself to do stuff because like one of my things was I was saying last year, which I didn't. I'm still gonna do it, but I didn't end up
Hmm.
going. But I was like, for my birthday, I'm gonna go skydiving, and my whole family were like, "You're crazy! Like, why?" And I was like, because I'm scared of heights, and I was like, I don't want to let that hold me back from
Hmm.
doing things like that. Even though it's like most people are like, "Why would you want to jump out of a plane?" I'm like,
Yeah. No,
because I'm
thanks.
scared of it.
No.
Yeah, but I don't know, I've just been, like, into a point of where I'm just keep pushing myself into that thing that
Mhm.
makes me uncomfortable because 'cause I'm like, I know it
Yes.
makes me uncomfortable for a reason, and that if I get over that, you know, that
Mhm.
it will actually benefit me, so it's like
Yep. When we're uncomfortable, it leaves room for growth. It leaves room for change, and learning. And so, you know, that's why I say just do it scared. Do it scared, right? You want to build your private practice. You want to be an entrepreneur. You want to be a coach. You want to be a podcaster. Like what, you know, I don't know what your goals are, but those are things that you're just going to do scared and you're going to make mistakes along the way. And that's okay. You just have to embrace them, learn from it, and then move forward, right?
yeah. I still, for some things, feel like no matter how many times I've done it, I still get scared every time. Like, part of it
Yep.
is a little bit of, like, the like calling people or like even
Mhm.
sometimes a podcast still I get nervous before the episode and I'm like I've done like at least 25 already. I don't know why I'm still, you know. But I also feel like that's why I said I also feel like it can
Mhm.
be a good thing because I know it's just because like I I want to, you know, give my full effort and to like make people, well, not like people that don't matter, but like people like my mom, like make them proud. And so it's kind of a thing
Mhm.
where I know I still get like those jitters before.
Yeah, sure. Well, and one of the things that I teach all of my therapists that come into my coaching program, the very first thing that we dial into is your why. Why are you doing this? And I'll tell you, and this can be advice for you too to take with you today, is that it shouldn't be okay, actually hang on. Your why has to be for you, okay? And so when you are starting your business, whether it's a private practice or something else, your why has to be aligned with the things that you want. It cannot be for other people. That can come along for the ride. So I'll give you an example. I have a lot of, when I do my free strategy calls with people who are interested in building their private practice, I ask them what their why is. And a lot of times, most of the time, they say, I just want to help people and I want to do this and that. And, help, I just want to help everyone. And I was like, oh, you're forgetting something. Who is it that you really want to help? Because first and foremost, in your business, you have to take care of you first. And what happens is when you take care of you, in turn, you take care of others, right? And so, yes, if we want to make people proud that we've done something, that's great. That just comes along for the ride. What's in it for you? How does this help you? Because your why for you is what is going to drive your business, drive your private practice in the direction that you want to go. I'll give you an example. So, if my why is financial freedom and time freedom, okay, which is my why, okay, more time with my family, definitely more income, no shame, okay. So, if that's my why, then when it comes to things like, well, that's my why. That's a lot of other people's whys. And one individual in my coaching program who's an alumni now and has a thriving private practice, when she came to me and was like, I need to do credentialing, I've been stumbling all over this. I looked at her and said, what was your why? And she had the same as mine, right? Which was time freedom and financial freedom. And I was like, is this bringing you time freedom? And she goes, no. I'm like, okay, hire somebody to do it, which is also where money mindset comes in as well, right? Like, what's the return on your investment if you one time drop this fee? And that's something to think about too. A lot of clinicians, I mean, we drop probably 80, 90K on grad programs and all of our schooling. And so when you look at investing in your business, which is going to bring you more profit than anything else that you can do as a therapist is going to bring. When you look at that, you're willing to spend that on your degree, but you're not willing to spend a little, 5K, right? 10K maybe, I don't know, in investing in your business. And that part is that money mindset part, but also too dialing into your why of why are we doing this? What is it has to be for us. It cannot be for anybody else. Those things can come secondary. Okay. Maybe that is the result of when we take care of us and we dial into our why, right? All the other things fall in line that we're like, that would be really nice too, if, right? I can help more people or, you know. So
Yeah.
hopefully that gives you also some clarity on your why as well. But that is always what we want to get dialed into, because if we're doing it for our clients, right? Then that I split it into two brains. We have a clinical brain as therapists, and we have well, we all have a clinical brain as therapists. Not everybody has a business brain, but I teach and help you to build the business brain so that, because that has to be in the driver's seat. And your passion and your clinical brain can be in the passenger seat. It can come along for the ride, but it cannot be in the driver's seat, because I'll tell you, it will drive you to poverty. So that's not why you're doing, right? We can't do that. And then when we get ourselves to a space where we've dialed into our why and we're leaning into that, then when we hit those goals that we wanted for ourselves in our business, it opens us up. Maybe then we can do pro bono or sliding scale, things of that nature. So volunteer, right? We have the time to do it. We have the finances to be able to do it. We're not working 3 or 4 jobs. Like, it really opens us up.
Right. Yeah. Um that was very good information. I'm not brain. It's not my day today. It's a Monday. That's how I know it's a Monday because I've just been like brains not working. I also been trying not to drink coffee that much cuz
Ooh, that'll do you in. That'll
yeah.
really do you in.
So that's why I do apologize if my brain's low. I'm like I'm here, I promise. Um yeah, I've done a bit of work like on my why and that's not yeah, like making my mom proud stuff that is like a thing of like you said, like something that I want to come along with it, like,
Mhm,
but not my motivating factor because I
mhm.
there's a lot more to it. Time freedom is one of the financial freedom also, but then
Yeah.
things of like one of my bigger things is like for about 5 years of my life I was homeless, me, my mom, and my brother,
Wow.
and so one part of my why outside of the time and financial freedom is providing a good life for my future children because I
Mhm.
don't want them to go through what I went through.
Yeah.
So, but you know, my mom's my rock. She's my best friend.
Mhm.
So that's a little bit where, some days it's like I see that why, but I also think about like how grateful I am to have my mom and like how I want to make her proud. And it's like
Yeah.
it's for me, but it's also because I've seen so much how much she's gone through, and then also kind of similar to you, she was a single parent, and was doing a lot. So she's part of my why. Not I'm not doing it just for her. I have
Right.
other things I want to achieve, but I
Yeah.
definitely every day think about I first and foremost making myself proud, but then
Mhm.
also my mom because
Yeah.
and she's
Of
also
course.
in the entrepreneur space, so it's like it's very nice to
I love
both
that.
go in the same path. So
I love that. I love it. Mm.
thank you. Yeah, I've done like I've tried to do quite a bit of work like on that. I just actually bought it's like the Law of Attraction journal,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I've had like bits and pieces. I've done my own research on stuff. I kind of I have things, but it's just they're not all together. And so I when I found this journal, I was like, I really like it. And my friend, she's more spiritual. She knows more about that stuff, and but she's kind of taught me some of it. And I found on Amazon and saw like all the pages and the prompting, and I was like, this is perfect because I feel like I have all these bits and pieces.
Mhm.
I know, I'm like, oh, I know I want down the road. I know these things, but I just don't feel like it's fully together. So
Mhm.
finding this journal with like all the prompts that it has, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. And I've done like 3 or 4 pages. I literally just got it the other day, and I'm so excited every day. I'm like, I'm getting a journal, and
Yeah.
like it's very cool. But
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
love personal development.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the journey too, is, your mindset's part of the journey. Your you know, leaning into things that will help you grow, again, whether you're just, an entrepreneur and you're creating a business, or you're a therapist creating a private practice, you want to absorb everything that you possibly can. And so I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you're in grad school or if you're in your undergrad and you're wanting to become a therapist, join my Facebook group. It's free. Start soaking in the knowledge now so that it starts building your confidence so that you can then lean in when you're ready to lean in. Well, let's just say you're not there's not going to be a time where you're ready. Again, you got to do it scared, right? But when
Mhm.
the time comes and you're able to, that you have some knowledge built up, and it's not something so new that it's scary, right? In that capacity. So you've got some knowledge building.
Yeah, I agree with
Hmm.
that. I feel like there was a time where I thought like I had to prep so much for something, and then every time I was like, no, I just need to prep more, and I'm like, yeah, no amount of preparation is like gonna make you completely, get over that fear. Like
Yeah.
you just have
Yeah.
to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I also like one piece of advice I was just thinking is like never think like, oh, I can never find this, or especially when it's coming to like money mindset, like thinking like for example, you know, like a long time ago, I was like, oh, I can never find life coaching for free. Like, I feel like, anything I've looked into, it's just out of my price range. And then like I had just posted about it on Facebook
Mhm.
and had a couple people that were like, oh, I'm doing pro bono, like, and I was like, see, and that like reassured me. I'm like, if you really want something, you can find it. You just have to
Mhm.
be like in the right space to attract it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you have anything in particular that you would want to talk about? Maybe I was thinking another question I had was like, what what is something you would say makes you unique? Like, what is your thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So I believe that what is unique to me and to my business and how I operate is really truly it comes down to who I am. And I care so incredibly deeply, even about people who don't care about me. Maybe it's a weakness, maybe it's a strength, I don't know, but I really, truly, genuinely care. And I want people to be successful. Like that is like, I get so much joy out of other people's success and them seeing, the light at the end of the tunnel that is shining so bright for them in their private practice, whether it's their first client that they brought in or their 10th client that they brought in, or their private practice is full, or they've been able to make the leap and put in their resignation. Those are things, that's what drives me. I want to see that from other people. I really, truly, deeply care. And I will do anything to help my clients be successful and make sure that they have everything that they need, and that they're doing it right so that it sets them up for success. So I think that's honestly what makes me most unique is just the level of, it's hard to market how much you care.
Right.
And so I think, when people get to know me and I'm just kind of who I am, this is how I show up. In a hoodie in the winter, of course, and a tank top in the summer. I just am who I am, and I show up, um, you know, as who I am. I don't pretend to be anything else, and I genuinely care for my clients, and I care for the people that aren't even working with me. Like,
Right.
so yeah, I think that's what makes me unique. Plus, my background and experience is very unique. When it comes to how I help people now, I really pull from my vast resource of knowledge and experience myself. So I think those two things make me very different.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've got a big heart, and I can relate to that. My mom as well. I would say my mom almost more than me. Sometimes I feel like there's moments where I'm like, I could see something more clearly than my
Mhm.
mom. And I'm like, Mom, I know you care, but like, I'm such a protector of my mom that I'm like, I don't want her to get hurt. So like sometimes I have to be the one. I'm like, Mom, no, don't do that.
I
But
love that.
yeah, we both bit I would say where I would say I've worked on I don't want to like not allow myself to like be open and to let people in, but I've also kind of worked on kind of having like boundaries, being a bit
Mhm.
more, kind of aware because I felt like beforehand I felt like a lot of people in my life were just using me, but
Sure.
thankfully I kind of acknowledged them was like that was kind of like more when I started my journey and like recognizing relationships, like what relationships I wanted to keep, which ones I didn't, based on kind of like where I wanted to go. But
Yeah.
do you feel like there's been any like tough situations where you had to let go of a certain relationship or
Oh, yeah, sure. Of course. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that really plays into, right? So my niche for my private practice and in the population that I work with particular is self-esteem and self-compassion. And so it's actually my one of my favorite things to do besides coaching. And so what I do is I've kind of paired that in my private practice, or my the 9 to Thrive Private Practice Academy. That resonates in there as well, because we have to be compassionate towards ourselves. And that means setting boundaries. That means following our own guidelines. That's something early on in my career that I had to learn how to set boundaries, not only in my personal life, but also in my professional life. That's something that you have to do. And if you want to be a business owner, is you have to learn how to do that. You have to learn when to say no. That's super important. And yes, of course, I have had to do lots of things where I've had to set boundaries and I've had to, you know, shift out of relationships or move into ones that were healthier spaces for me. Absolutely. And that's the same in my business too. There's things and shifts that I've had to make that I believe are healthy for me and healthy for my family, right? So, maybe it's the work environment that I was in prior, right? And setting a boundary for myself and caring enough about me, right? Rather than at that point in time, I was putting my staff over my own needs. And that was really unhealthy for me. And so that was a big wake up call that I needed to move into taking better care of myself first, because when I take better care of myself, then I can take better care of others. And so that was a big piece for me. And I teach all of my therapists in my coaching program when they're building their private practice, I teach them to care for themselves. That's also why we dial into our why and what it is that you need, right? And so really holding to those boundaries, and your practice, your procedures and your practice. So hopefully that answered your question.
I agree. Yeah, I feel like that's very important. Because I always think of, like, I believe it was John C. Maxwell, or your circle of five, like people you spend the most time, 5
Mhm,
people you spend the most time with is like who you're most alike.
mhm,
So I had heard that like a long time ago, and that like was really the thing of like, okay, who are these people, and like, do I want to be like them, or do I kind of need to, look at where maybe I need to either take a break or
mhm,
separate from certain relationships, which was hard because the main one that I had, separated one from was like an 8-year long friendship. So
that's hard.
it was really tough, and like it was the thing where I was like, I'm done, and then a few months later it kind of felt lonely because like I didn't really have friends. I had cut off other friends, but like this one friendship, it was so hard because we had been friends for so long.
Mhm,
And even though I knew like, okay, this friendship isn't good for me, it still was like, oh, but what if I'm alone, or she's like
mhm,
my only friend, or kind of not feeling like worthy of myself to be able to, separate, even if it meant I was alone. But
right.
so I like did that a little bit back and forth, like twice. Wasn't friends for a couple months, and then it was like at that time I was struggling with not liking being by myself, which
Mhm,
thankfully I've overcome. And now, like most days, even though I have a different best friend, like I still most times now like enjoy being by myself and like doing my own thing.
yeah.
And it's taken me a long time to get there, honestly. I for the longest time was scared of being alone, and I just wanted, I felt like I was kind of feeding off other people's energy because
Mhm,
I wasn't secured in myself. But then like the real point of like ending that friendship was like, okay, now you kind of have no choice. Like you have to commit to yourself and work on loving
right,
yourself.
right. Yeah.
That way, so when you make new friends, you actually can set proper boundaries and not,
Mhm,
accept certain things that I was accepting beforehand.
exactly, exactly. Yeah,
Do you I was thinking this when you're talking about your program, is there like a specific candidate, in case anyone was interested, is there any
sure.
certain qualifications or things that people would need to, if
Right.
they're interested in your program?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the main criteria are, mental health therapists. So, LPCs, LCSWs, LMHCs, clinical psychologists, anybody that is doing psychotherapy, are my ideal clients that come into my coaching program, ready to do the work. That's really kind of the main criteria, is ready to dive in with me. And I really wrap out all of my clients kind of in a bubble and carry them through. A program is 6 months. So really just ushering and virtually holding their hand through the whole process. And so that's, whether they want to optimize what they've started, whether they want to start, whether they want to grow or scale, I have options for all of that. My only request is that those clinicians, whether they're associates, residents, or fully licensed, are just ready to deep dive in and get going, because selfishly, I want to see your success. And so I'm sure that those coaching members do as well. But I really want to see that while they're in the program. And that is my primary, those are my primary criteria, just ready to do the work.
It's awesome. And
Yeah.
outside of the program, is there any additional resources or anything that you're offering that maybe people would be interested in?
Sure. I have lots of free resources. I have a free 5-step guide to help you get started. I also have my therapist freedompreneur Facebook group, and so I do free live trainings in that multiple times a month. There's tips, there's guides, there's pro tips in there, just really keeping you dialed in and informed. In that Facebook group. So that's another really good resource to tap into.
It's awesome. Do you feel
Yeah.
like for people who are wanting to get started, do you think joining the group would be a good first step, or do you think maybe there's certain
Yeah.
just not sure on the
On the
process?
process.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, check out the website, book a free strategy call. That's really the best way to get dialed in. What we do is we spend 45 minutes together. It's completely free. And we take a look at like what your goals are as a clinician, where your practice is at, or if you haven't started, where you want it to go. And then we really put some things together so you can actually envision and see what it would look like, so that then we can take the next steps towards actually making that happen.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Is your program like tailored, or does it have like a specific outline that's already set in place but kind of tweaked based on the person?
Yeah. So the program has like multiple layers to it. And I go through that on my strategy call. I explain all of that on there. But really, truly, it is custom to each clinician that comes into the program. And so, like I said, if you haven't started your private practice yet, but you're thinking about it, that's a great step. If you started and you're frustrated or don't know what the next steps are, if you started and you realize that you're seeing more clients and not really getting the income that you want, if you've started and it's not what you thought it would be, or you need to optimize, that's an option. If you started, now you're ready to grow it or scale it or add other programs on, intensives, things of that nature, or you want to shift into insurance, or you want to shift into self-pay, we cover all of that. So it's very custom. Even though the program is set, it's very custom to what each individual therapist wants to or needs to do in their practice.
Awesome. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that information. I know there's some people that probably going to be interested in that. So I wanted to kind of, while you're on here,
Hmm.
share kind of the
Yeah,
process behind that.
of
We're
course.
kind of nearing towards the end. So my favorite thing to do towards the end is allow you like 5 minutes to just have the space to share anything maybe we didn't get to cover, or anything you really want to, make prominent to other people, maybe some facts about you that we didn't discuss. Just
Yeah, sure.
that space.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I will tell you that I'm located in Virginia Beach. Some fun facts about me is that I love my family. I do a lot of stuff with my family. We love the beach. And even though we live at the beach, we vacation at the beach. I love being a clinician. I still love doing therapy alongside of the coaching program that I do. I still see a few clients. Um, and so I would say that my advice to anybody that's watching or tuning in is to really, reach out. It's okay to ask for help. Remember that you're going to do it scared. Remember that there is help out there that will help you get where you want to go. I just need to know where it is. Where do you want to go? What does the map look like? That's what I'm going to share with you, right? If you give me the end goal, I will tell you how to get there, and I will help you along the way and usher you and carry you through it. And so if you're ready to build your private practice, if you want to optimize it, if you want to grow and scale, reach out and get dialed in, book a free strategy call, join the Facebook group, watch my free live trainings. I have webinars as well that you're welcome to join. I'd love to be able to help you. And so that's just a little bit about me and what I have to offer.
Awesome. You said Virginia Beach. I haven't really gone to many places, but I definitely agree on the part of like loving going to the beach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why both of my businesses are named Saltwater Coaching and Consulting, Saltwater Counseling and Wellness.
Right.
Yep.
Depending too, like on the sand, because my fiance's family, they love to go to this beach and like the sand is awful. I'm picky. I'm already a little bit of a picky person on certain things. I like my little luxuries, and I'm like, the sand is like so like coarse, like it hurts to walk on. And I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm like, what is this sand? I love the water, but my favorite part is just like laying down on the sand and just like I'll honestly, when I go to the beach, most times I end up taking a nap.
Yeah.
Which it's like it's hard not
peaceful.
to. Yeah. It's hard
peaceful.
not to.
Yeah, that's true. I love, there's something calming about the ocean. And this really grounds me. And so that's, if I'm missing, that's where I'll be. It's on the beach.
I was gonna say, honestly, I think like that's probably like the best naps I've ever had has been on the beach.
Yeah.
And it's like my family will be like, why are you sleeping? Like we barely come to the beach, because I live in Maine. It's, most of the time it's cold, it's snowing, or it's just like yucky weather. And then like
Mm-hmm.
the summer, it's like we don't go enough, but like when we do, it's, I don't know, I'm just so tired every time. I'm like, I'm going to take a nap because it's just the breeze and
Yeah.
it's just so nice.
Peaceful.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you grew up there, Virginia Beach?
I grew up in Virginia, but
Right.
I didn't grow up in Virginia Beach, but moved
Right.
to the beach as soon as I possibly could.
I don't blame you. I'm
Yeah.
from, I don't know if you've ever been to Maine.
I have not. No.
It's very small state
Mm-hmm.
in the upper right-hand corner, and there's not a whole lot here.
Yeah.
But then I know so many people that are like, oh, I want to go to Maine. I'm like, I'm from here. I want to go somewhere else.
I would love to visit Maine. Love to visit Maine.
It does. There are like very beautiful parts of Maine, but the few times like I've gone, like for 5 years I lived in California, and then I've been to Utah a couple times, and I'm like, I just like the weather there more.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Right.
I've also been to Las Vegas. The weather it's too
Hot.
hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, too hot.
Yeah.
But I feel like here there's not like much, I would want to do if I was a tourist. Like
Right.
wouldn't want to see a lot. But yeah, was there anything else you wanted to share before we go? I know we're kind of nearing towards
Yeah.
that end, but I just wanted to make sure, I gave you that space to share everything you wanted to share today.
No, just thank you for having me.
Of
And
course.
yeah, and congratulations on, starting your own business and your own podcast. I think it's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was actually doing something earlier for that journal. It was like, what are 10 achievements? And I like almost overlooked starting the podcast as one. And I was like, no, that like
It's a big deal.
yeah, because it's been a while. Even though it still hasn't even been that long. Like to me, I'm like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But I'm like, I did, come up with a concept, create the whole thing, which is, there is a lot to it that a lot of people don't talk about.
There's a
And
lot to podcasting, so I haven't done it
yeah.
yet.
Which I can share to here, but I actually made, I believe it was like it was either 25 or it's been a while since I made it, but like I wrote down the entire process of how I created mine. I've actually gave it to a few people because I feel like, although I wouldn't say like, oh, I haven't, don't have a successful, like it doesn't have, thousands and thousands of streaming, but it's still, a lot of people don't know that initial point, like how do I start,
Mm-hmm.
what are kind of things to keep in mind. So I actually like made something. I think maybe down the line I might create a course, but kind of.
Do it.
But then I've had that limiting mindset of like, oh, but it's not successful yet. So would people want to buy a course? But
Mm.
it's also like, I was thinking the wording, like how to start a podcast. Didn't say how to start a successful podcast. I'm not there yet, but how to
Yeah,
start it in general. I
sure.
done a lot of playing around with that, kind of figuring out, formatting like with flyers, creating the intro, the outro. There's a lot of like nitty gritty things that I've learned. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it would be useful information.
I think so too.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for coming on. You said you for that's what I was thinking of. For anyone who would want to reach you, I'm also gonna have it linked, but I also,
Yeah.
for people who like it verbally, if we could just know where people can find you.
Sure. Saltwatercoachingandconsulting.com is where you can find me. Therapist Freedompreneur Facebook group is where you can find me. I'm also on LinkedIn as well. I'm not as active on LinkedIn, but you can certainly reach me there. But my website is the best spot to gather some information, learn about the additional resources that I have, and book your free strategy call.
I'm also gonna have that linked as well, so that it's easy to access. But I know some people
Yeah.
like me, I like to hear it verbally. So appreciate you so much for
Yeah.
coming on. I know it's been a
Thank
while
you.
in the making, but I'm happy we're still able to, make it work, and we can, get to know more about each other. So
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
you're very welcome. I hope that you guys have a great Monday night. I've had a bit of people rescheduling, so I don't know when our next episode is. It should be Friday, but if it's not, I will see you when our next guest is still available. Um, Things happen, so you know
It's
that's
life.
good. Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Danielle, for coming on,
Yeah.
and I hope you guys all have a great night.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.